colored person, people of color. How was it different? You turned it around, put a of in the middle, made it fancy. Person of color. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this new show on Showtime called Everything's Going to Be All White. I didn't say that improperly. All White, WHITE. It's some kind of show where you got black folks complaining about white folks. And, you know, imagine if it was the other way around. Whites complaining about blacks, instantly racist, neo-Nazi, X, Y, and Z. But I guess when it's the other way around, it's not really a big deal. Now, I've seen a few guys reacting to it, but I've not watched their video. I just want to react to it fresh right here on the recording, one take, to see what's going on. But I kind of already know where they're going to go. But let's see if I'm correct or incorrect. And if you want to see this full trailer without my commentary, links will be in the description. So let me get that straight right here and let's check it out.
I think what annoys me most about white people is when they pretend like they're the victim. What's also annoying is when they kill us.
Oh boy. I mean, here we go. Who is killing you though? Really? Who is killing black folks more than anybody else? I would say it's black folks. Black folks are the number one murderer and murder victim in the U.S. out of all the races. 52% of all murderers in the United States are black, and 48% of all the victims are black, despite us being 13% of the population. And I could get into how it's mostly men that do it between the ages of 18 and 30. So you're talking about 2% maybe of the population committing over half the crime and being half of the victims. But let's just move on.
What is fragile about whiteness when everything has been constructed around it?
Every part of who I am has been distorted or criminalized.
It's really just a bunch of white lies.
I mean, the people that you just saw, like, what was it? Well, Linda Sarsour. I mean, she looks white to me. If she didn't have on this, Muslim stuff, I wouldn't even think that she was anything other than white. So, I don't really understand. I'm going to say one thing right quick before we move on. A lot of these people have really, their upbringers are not, they can't really relate to a guy like me. So when they're talking about all this white stuff and black victim stuff, they're speaking from their point of view, which is completely different than the average person that they're trying to support or speak out in favor of.
Or criminalized.
It's really just a bunch of white lies.
We're storming the Capitol. You're not.
Of course, they're going to play this part right here. And I figured they would do that. I figured, I saw it coming, this whole Capitol thing, but they want to talk about all the BLM riots and the so-called protests that became riots over the past few years in the United States that didn't claim a lot of black lives, dozens of black lives. They want to go into that right there. The only person that died from this was one white lady who was shot by a police officer, but that's okay in their point of view because it's white folks.
Patriots, you're ridiculous.
One of the definitions of American whiteness is.
So wait a minute. So you played, okay, you got the Confederate flag flying, right?
Of American whiteness.
And then the American flag, like it's the same thing. So hugging the American flag is somehow bad. But see, what they're not talking about right here is how you have these movements of black folks on the internets, ADOS, American descendants of slaves, and we want to embrace being American black people, but him hugging the American flag is somehow wrong. I don't understand.
Is ignorance.
White people, we are not your problem. You are.
Should white people today feel any responsibility for slavery?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to do that, if white folks are to feel responsible for slavery, then why wouldn't every other race whose ancestors were involved in it? And the crazy part is that most white people today in America were not even, their family was not even here during slavery. Okay, that's just not the reality of what's going on. And again, let's go to Africa and speak to the tribes that were selling black folks into slavery. Let's go to Saudi Arabia, former Ottoman Empire. talk to them as well because they brought a lot of black slaves. It's not just a blame the white man type thing. That's why I would joke about that. I say blame the white man for everything. You know, the sun ain't shining, blame the white man for that. It's not his responsibility to have the sun get hoisted in the sky. But people like that will find a way to blame the white man for that being the case.
White Jesus or black Jesus?
Jesus was not white.
But where did Christianity come from? Did it come from some village in Ghana or somewhere, or did it come from Europe? I mean, you tell me. I'm just trying to figure out, where did Christianity come from? Who wrote the book? You read in the King James version of the Bible. Who was King James? What was he the king of? Was he the king of Namibia? Was he the king of South Africa? Was he the king of Lesotho? Was he the king of Eritrea? He was the king of England right during the time when they brought the slaves over. I'm not saying King James wrote the Bible, but the one that we read in black church mostly, when I was in the church, is King James Version. So what are we talking about? Where did the religion come from? Europe, or again, a village in Africa?
Think of geography. Ain't no way Jesus walked around.
Okay, let's talk about geography. Wait a minute. Let's go back. Okay, this right here is not Africa. Egypt is not really Africa. Yes, it's on the continent of Africa, but people live like up here. Okay, right by the peninsula. And you got Israel, Lebanon, all of that. This right here was Ottoman Empire. That's not the same thing as people that look like me did not live here. This is not where we lived. Okay, you got the Sahara Desert, all kind of stuff. We live sub-Saharan Africa. This is not where we from. Okay, that's like pointing at a landmass of Asia and saying that Russians can't be white because they're in the same landmass of Asia. That's stupid.
Geography. Ain't no way Jesus walked around with blonde hair and blue eyes.
White culture fears the end of the world. For us as Native people, the end of the world already happened like multiple times.
Let's go back. Shout out to all the natives. You know, I'm cool with the Native Americans. I'm cool with everybody. I'm cool with white, black, whatever. But the whole thing about the natives, what they never ever say about the Trail of Tears is that natives had black slaves on the Trail of Tears with them. When they were forced to leave parts of the United States and go to Oklahoma, stuff like that, they had black slaves with them. They don't talk about that part. Not all, but some most certainly did. It's just a fact.
Like multiple times.
Symbols and monuments, these are mementos of racism.
Bring that statue down. Put up a TCBY yogurt or something everybody can get behind.
The truth has to be told about history.
So this says from the POC POV. I absolutely detest the term POC. That stands person of color. It's the same thing as saying colored person. It's just a fancy way of saying colored person. Like, okay, colored person, people of color. How was it different? You turned it around, put a of in the middle, made it fancy. Person of color. It's just like what they say with Harlem. Manhattan Heights.
We have to make sure that these stories are told from our perspective.
There's always hope. You know what I'm saying? We don't give up.
It's about obliterating systemic and institutionalized racism.
This is a wild place, y'all. It's a wild place.
This is an actress, of course, Amanda Diva. Well, her name now is Amanda Seals. She was also a child actress on a show called My Brother and Me. She was like the fast talking friend of, I think, the sister. Yeah, so she's people that had in this little thing right here are actors for the most part. Okay, comedians, actors, Hollywood, Los Angeles people. These are not necessarily real people, if you understand what I mean.
I know Harriet and Frederick be up there just like, what is they gonna do?
All right, so that's that. Everything is going to be all white coming out on Showtime. Now, you know what? I'm gonna say this. Here's a quick hot take. The chief audience of this show is not going to be black folks because most black people really are not worried about that kind of political stuff. It's gonna be a lot of white liberals and people that did not grow up the same way I grew up. You know, like me, I got kind of the typical black story. Well, kind of. Like single parent household. My parents are like my difference is that my parents are married before I was born and knew each other. I have a dad. Well, I had a dad before he passed. You understand? Like, but everybody that I knew coming up pretty much had a similar situation at home. It's just their mom and then their dad's not in the picture and you kind of just struggling, not a whole lot of money. That's typical black story in America. Unfortunately, these people don't really understand that. And a lot of people don't really understand that. So if you're black and you don't have that kind of upbringing, sometimes you feel like you're left out and you don't really understand quote unquote black culture. So you watch things like that to make yourself like you're some kind of armchair activist. You know what? I'm doing right by the black community. I know all these information and facts. I'm going to go out there and make a change. I'm going to go out there and you don't do anything really. You might go to a BLM rally and be cannon fodder, but that's about it. I see that all the time. It's called black guilt, white guilt. Like white guilt and black guilt is the same thing. White guilt, I see these poor black folks and they're living in the hood and they don't have any money, all this, that, and the third. I feel guilty. What can I do to help them? Black folks that did not have that kind of lifestyle, they understand the same thing. But for me, a guy that is from that and lived in it, I understand that there's no point in having any kind of guilt towards the hood. The whole point is to get out the hood. Tell them how they get out the hood. Don't try to say, oh, well, it's the white man's fault you right here. That right there just kind of dooms them to be like, all right, I'm never going to leave here and I'm going to just have a chip on my shoulder and blame somebody else. And quite frankly, it's kind of racist to think that they can't leave the situation and they're going to be doomed to that existence. I refuse to believe that. What they say, I rebuke that. I rebuke that 100%. You can change your life in America. Now, in other parts of the world, maybe not so much, but in the good old US of A, our country, my country, we can do that. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about this new show called It's Gonna Be All White? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. It's just trash. This is just, black victimhood. I'm oppressed and I'm going to show these white liberals how oppressed I am. Please give me some money. Please give me a pat on the head. That's soft to me. That's real soft. It's whack. I mean, it's just, I know guys that have been to the penitentiary. I know guys that have been shot. I know guys that's dead. And this is not how we talk. This is not the reality of the streets, so to speak. Now, I'm not saying I'm some kind of gang banger or a thug or criminal or nothing like that. I just come from that kind of environment to where I know these guys. I'm the guy that knows the guy that's out there doing X, Y, and Z. They don't speak this way. What are they saying? What can I do to make money legally? How can I gain skills? How can I go out there and provide for my family? They're not looking at how can I be a victim? That's the white liberal, the black liberal, those that have never experienced a kind of life. They buy into that, not us. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.